Welcome to this explainer. Listen, I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. If you're just starting out and, just hearing the word calculus makes your palms sweat, take a deep breath. It's okay. Today, I'm going to be your personal tutor. We're going to completely demystify calculus. We'll take what look like cold, hard test questions and turn them into, honestly, a magical journey of discovery. You see, calculus, it isn't about memorizing scary symbols. It's really about learning a brand new way to see the world around you. So let's start exploring. Okay, let's dive right into this foundational question. Before we even look at a single number or equation, I want you to ask yourself, how might you measure the exact speed of a falling leaf at one specific microsecond? Or think about this, how do you measure the precise amount of water filling up a bay during a shifting tide? Standard math is great for things that sit still, right? But the universe doesn't sit still. It's always in motion. And that is exactly why calculus was invented. It's literally the mathematics of continuous change. We know math can cause a little anxiety. So here's our map for today. First, the magic math tools. Second, derivatives, or the instant speedometer. Third, conquering the logarithmic peak. Fourth, integrals, which we'll call measuring the paint. Fifth, taming the trigonometric waves. And finally, your calculus journey continues. All right, let's jump into part one, the magic math tools. We're going to introduce calculus not as some bunch of intimidating equations, but as two beautifully intuitive everyday tools. I want you to think of the two main tools of calculus exactly like this. A derivative is essentially your car's speedometer. It doesn't tell you about your whole road trip, it tells you your exact speed, your exact rate of change right at this very millisecond. On the flip side, an integral, well, that's like a paint bucket. It's used for figuring out exactly how much paint you need to cover an entire weirdly shaped wall. It accumulates things. Speedometer and paint bucket. Seriously, if you can remember those two everyday objects, you already understand the very soul of calculus. Moving on to part two, derivatives, the instant speedometer. And straight into part three, conquering the logarithmic peak. All right, imagine you're standing right at the base of a massive mountain trail. Our first real challenge from the exam paper, question 3, asks us to evaluate the function y equals the natural log of x divided by x to the power of 4. Now, I know this intimidating logarithmic function looks like an alien language, but as your tutor, I want you to just see this equation as the literal shape of our mountain path. That's it. And our goal? The exam wants us to find its absolute highest peak. In fancy calculus terms, we're looking for the horizontal tangent. So the absolutely crucial point here is this golden tutor's rule. When a graph is completely flat, its rate of change is 0. Imagine hiking up that mountain. You're hiking up, 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 your rate of change is positive. Then boom, you hit the very top peak. For one brief moment, right before you start going down the other side, you aren't going up or down, you're on completely flat ground. That means at that exact peak, your speedometer, your derivative is exactly 0. By taking this math step by step, we actually use the derivative as a literal compass. Step 1, as the exam solution shows, we find the derivative. F prime of x equals 1 minus 4 natural log of x all over x to the 5th. Step 2, to find that flat peak where our speedometer reads 0, we just set the top part, the numerator of that fraction, to 0. So 1 minus 4 natural log of x equals 0. And step 3, we just solve for x. By doing that, our derivative compass leads us straight to the exact coordinates of the flat peak of this scary-looking function. Just like that, you conquered a calculus exam question. Now for part 4, integrals, measuring the paints. Okay, it's time to swap out our speedometer for our second tool, the paint bucket. In question 2 of the exam, you have this rolling sine wave, and there's a section dipping below the horizontal axis that's shaded dark gray. Now, if you were a painter asked to paint that exact gray dip, how would you know how much paint to buy? You can't just use length times width because the edges are completely curvy. And this is exactly where an integral acts like your magical paint bucket, helping us calculate exactly how much area is trapped in that weird curvy space. So how does it work? It's kind of like magic. Step 1, we identify the equation of the wave. Step 2, we set up the integral, giving it our start and end points, the specific spots where the dip starts and ends. Step 3, the math takes over. The integral magically sweeps across from left to right, gathering up millions of paper-thin vertical slices of space, adding them all together instantly to give us the exact area of that shaded region. That, my friends, is the power of the integral. Let's move to part 5, taming the trigonometric waves. Let's combine our new tools with trigonometry, which is really just the mathematical language of circles and cycles. Don't let the word trigonometry scare you. It just describes things that repeat over and over. In question 10, a graph models the tide at a small island called Sulay's Skerry, rising and falling over a 15-hour period. You can visualize the water level starting high, dipping down to low tide, and swelling back up to high tide. Because it's a repeating cycle, it's perfectly modeled by a trigonometric wave function. Now, part C of the question asks, find the rate of change of the height of the water when t equals 13. Notice those magic words right there, rate of change. That means we need our speedometer. Step 1, we find the derivative of this specific tide function, turning our wave equation into a rate equation. In trig, differentiating a simple cosine curve turns it into a negative sine function. Step 2, we substitute 13 in place of t. By doing this simple calculation, we basically check our speedometer, and we can see precisely how fast the water level is dropping at that exact 13th hour. Look at you, you're analyzing ocean tides with math. And finally, part 6. Your calculus journey continues. Just look at what you've done today. You've successfully used mental speedometers and paint buckets to conquer logarithmic mountains and tame ocean waves. You've proven to yourself that fundamental calculus isn't some elite, impossible secret. It is a highly accessible, totally intuitive adventure. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. As you step back into the real world today, look around you. Imagine a graph of your own energy levels throughout the day, spiking after coffee, crashing in the afternoon. What would the derivative of your energy look like at 3 p.m.? When would your speedometer hit 0 at your peak? Calculus is quite literally everywhere, once you know how to look for it. Keep asking questions, keep visualizing the math, and keep exploring. Thanks for learning with me today.